So what I want to talk about today is lust, specifically sexual lust. Now, this is a really hard topic, and what I want to do is open it up and penetrate it so that you and I can come together to a better understanding of how to not be driven insane by horniness. You ready? Let's hit it! So, I think the reason this topic is on my mind is because I have started taking some men's health supplements, saw palmetto, and a little zinc in it. And one of the unintended side effects is that saw palmetto will increase testosterone and increase male libido. Now, when I was at the monastery, I had this is going to fall into the category of TMI, as my niece calls it, so skip ahead if you don't want to hear about this. When I was at the monastery, I had I had to pee all the time, right? And it was really a problem because I was sitting in the zendo and you couldn't get up to go out and pee. So I took this natural supplement that a nun gave me that she had given to Roshi for his enlarged prostate, and it was called peanuts, as in P-E-E-N-U-T-S, peanuts. And it was supposed to help your, reduce your prostate so it wouldn't be pressing against your bladder, you wouldn't have to pee so much. So I started taking this, and one of the side effects was that it completely made me a horny old goat as I was sitting in that zendo all day. Zendo horniness is an entirely different caliber of horniness. I learned a lot about lust, sexual lust, on the cushion at the monastery because I just had to sit with it, and I had to sit in it, like right in the center of it. And I'm going to get to some of the stuff, lessons, insights that I had into lust at the monastery, but first I want to kind of just give a quick overview of Zen and Buddhism and sexuality, the question of sexuality. So as you know, the first noble truth in Buddhism is that life is suffering, or that there is suffering in life, or there is an unsatisfactory quality baked into human existence. The word for the Sanskrit word is dukkha. So in the Buddha's first discourse, which is the Dabada Sutra, I'll put it right here, I can't pronounce it, the Buddha defines the cause of suffering. So this is the second noble truth, the cause of suffering. What causes suffering? Clinging, or tanha, clutching, craving, deep craving is the cause of suffering. So then the Buddha goes on to describe three objects for craving. So you crave existence, you crave non-existence, and you crave sense pleasures. And of the sense pleasures, one of the deepest and most crave-worthy is bow chicka bow bow. So I'm looking at Wikipedia right now, which is a great resource for Buddhist sutras. And I'm going to read you from the Sutta Nipata, the Buddha talk. He's always talking about how the sexual desire are like arrows and darts that boom, boom, boom hit our body. And he's got two good quotes in here I want to read to you. If one, longing for sensual pleasure, achieves it, yeah, he's enraptured at heart. The mortal gets what he wants. But if for that person, longing, desiring, the pleasures diminish, he's shattered, as if shot with an arrow. So you can see we're not heading in the direction of get you some. Buddha goes on to say, so one, always mindful, should avoid sensual desires. Letting them go, he will cross over the flood like one who, having bailed out the boat, has reached the far shore. So that's going to be your standard Buddhist take on sexual lust. Like, it's fire. And if you play with fire, you're gonna get burned. One of the things I like about the Zen branch of Buddhism, one of the things that's always drawn me to it, is that it's not about abstinence. It's not about drawing lines in the sand about what you can and should do. So if maybe more traditional Buddhism is the auntie who kind of gives you the advice to stay away from sexual behavior, Zen is maybe like the uncle, the non-creepy uncle who says, you know what, you're human, okay? Explore, but just don't be attached, right? You can experience sexuality without craving. That's what you should aim for. That's more of the Zen point of view. So you're sitting on the cushion, you're getting ready to meditate, or I was back at the monastery, and I got that saw palmetto running through my system, and I start getting excited. Like, what do you do when lust starts pumping through your body? One thing that was helpful for me was a practice that I'd heard from Pema Chodron, and it's the simplest thing on the planet. And for cutting off sexual desire right at the root, right away, when I could do it, it worked instantly. It was highly effective, and it's incredibly simple. Put your attention into your body. That's it. She made a great point. Most lust is going on in your head, right? You feel it in your body, but like the heat is in your body, right? But the furnace for the desire, the lust, is up in your head. And when I would put my attention and my focus into my body, not my golden sacred red root, but my diaphragm, my breathing, feeling my muscles relax, feeling my hips relax, just put my attention in my body. 10 times out of 10, the really like lustful desire would kind of disappear, because that stuff is the little demon, the little horny homunculus is up here in your head. So I found that was a really effective way to nip the thing in the bud. So another practice that's really helpful in dealing with lust, I found, is a very old traditional Buddhist practice with a very long, complicated name in Sanskrit, which I'll put right here, right now. But it basically translates as you're contemplating the transitoriness or even the repulsiveness of the body. And this is not body shaming. This is not to be mistaken with a prudish, moralistic condemnation of the body. It's a contemplation of, it's like literally deconstructing your lust, right? So I think there's like 31 parts of the body that you're supposed to contemplate, and it's like the hair, toenails, intestines, your skin, and I think there are 7 ways of looking at it. So it's like the shape of, for example, the intestine or the liver or the fingernail or the eyeball, the color, the texture. So you got a beautiful woman in front of you in the Zendo, and the practice is pull an eyeball out of her head mentally. Take a look at it, turn it around, unzip that beautiful skin of hers or his, open it up, look at the guts, look at the rib cage, look at the pulsing, glistening, gooey inside of a human being. Deconstruct your lust. Your lust, it's great, beautiful Darwinian Mother Nature saying, keep this species going. So don't look at these individual oily, greasy body parts. Just see the whole put together as a wonderful Brad Pitt or Kim Kardashian. This meditative practice of contemplating the repulsiveness of the body deconstructs that lust. And it brought me to a deeper place than just sitting there allowing my sexual fantasy cinema to unroll the film in my head for a 25-minute sit. It got me thinking about contemplating being with my body, my transitoriness, and also eventually my death. Because death is the ultimate deconstruction of the body and of lust. So I remember one time I was walking along with my girlfriend Tony in the park, and some guy jogged past us, and she didn't get a good look at him or anything. And she turns to me and she says, sometimes, like, some guy will go past me and he's exercising and he's like grunting and he's sweaty, and I just hear him and I get a whiff of him, and I'll spare you the explicit language that she used, which was kind of hot, but it's bedroom talk. This is Dharma talk. But she basically said she'll get really aroused. She said she doesn't even see the guy's face. It's just purely he comes in through her senses, scent and sound, and like she gets aroused, and it doesn't mean anything. It was a very innocent confession, and one that I could really relate to, because the exact same thing happens to me. The exact same thing probably happens to all of us. The initial sensory contact is very innocent, right? I mean, I remember my teacher, when he used to try, I think, to communicate to me the interconnectedness of all things and the fact that fundamentally we are not bounded in or by our bodies or our minds, but we're interdependent and we co-arise all the things in this cosmos. He used to say, hey, when you see a woman walking down the street, before you start thinking, before you start lusting, like, where are you? Meaning, where is the ego? Where is the thinking mind? It's nowhere. It's gone. You're completely connected in that sensory moment. So lust begins as connection, but it quickly grows, I think, into a conflagration in the head. Like, the mind grabs this moment of sensory connection, say, that my girlfriend experienced in the park, and it starts building a sexy, cheesy, pornographic story out of it. And this was something I really experienced on the cushion at the monastery when I had no outlet for these sexual desires. Like, you'd be sitting there and there's some pretty person across from you, good-looking person in the zendo or sitting next to you, and you have the sexual fantasies about them for the next 25 minutes. And anybody who's ever done any meditation retreats knows exactly what I'm talking about. First, they seduce you. Then, that goes for a while, right? That's like 10, 15 minutes of your sit right there. The many different ways the hot person in the zendo seduces you, right? And then your mind gets bored with that, so you start thinking about how you get into a relationship with this person, right? And then your mind goes with that for a while, but then the person gets cancer. Oh my God. And then suddenly you're at this person's grave and you're composing your eulogy. The mind goes on and on and on with these fantasies. And that's one of the central lessons for me about lust, is that ultimately it's a story. It's a kind of a pornographic story that my mind is telling me. And in order for the story to work, it needs an object of lust. And that means it needs to objectify somebody. And that's key to lust. That's key to, like, sexual desire that gets into, for me, unhealthy territory, objectification, right? So I can have a moment of lust now, total lust. And I have them all the time. I mean, I'm sorry, but I do. I have them all the time, moments of lust, right? You just see someone on the street, and it's just, bam, you see the body. Bam, it's like desire, right? But if you play it out a little bit, or just hold with mindful awareness and attention this feeling, the person unfolds before you. And the person has scuffed shoes, and they've got embarrassing stories. And you can play the lustful energy out any which way, but sooner or later there's a human being in front of you that you can't objectify. And I think what the Buddha is getting at in these quotes, like the ones I read to you earlier, about being very wary of and steering clear of giving in to sexual desires, I think what the Buddha is getting at is that objectifying other people and using them for your own pleasure is always a mistake, is always a problem, and is always going to lead to really deep suffering. And that's what lust kind of does. It creates a fantasy, it creates a story, a sexy, interesting, dirty story that allows you to objectify another human being. And that objectification, not seeing them as fully human, but as kind of a beautiful piece of fruit you can consume to sate your desire, quench your thirst, is a problem, and it's going to cause suffering. So I think that's basically the theme of today's video. Don't give in to lust, if at all possible. Maybe every now and then. Speaking of lust, I lust for new patrons. Maybe that's not the way to put it, but honestly, I feel spent after this video. I feel like I need a cigarette and a nap and a shower. So I'm gonna go do all those things except for a nap, except for a cigarette, and I'm not even gonna shower. But if you enjoyed this video and you wanna support the work that I do here, I'm increasingly doing this as my main source of income. So if you can support me on Patreon and PayPal, that would be great. There are links in the description to this video below. Thank you so much. Also, hit subscribe and hit the notifications button. I'd appreciate that. Ciao and happy